Alright, those of you who have been in the Horde Test probably already know this, but for those of you who have not touched it, in the Horde Test there's this new feature that is a work in progress, meaning that it is not in its final form yet, and you essentially cannot complain about it yet. That said though, this has sparked an idea in my head to fix the issues with the map in general, as many of us think that it has way too many bushes and trees, and it's just getting more and more with each update. We kind of see the plains of the map shrink down a lot, even though some dinosaurs are dependent on plains, like the Carnotaurus for example, who is a plains hunter. Now, the feature in question is the ability to walk over grass to flatten it, and it creates these pathways, and I think that this is a really nice feature implemented by the devs, like it's really cool, I love it. But I feel we can expand on it and make it way more than it is. We kind of can utilize this new feature to actually fix all of the map issues and create a dynamic environment on top of that. I'm not gonna lie, that kind of excites me. I don't know about you, but for me that is just like, oh, that's cool. Even though it is just about vegetation, which is on first glance weird coming from a carnivore player, it really, really excites me. So I want to address an issue or two, like first of all. And yes, I know, it is a work in progress. But there has been this one thing that has just been bothering me right off the bat. And that is the draw distance of grass that has been disturbed, which seems to render only in very close proximity, and as you move, it kind of starts disappearing. I hate it. And I feel if I have my settings on Epic that I should have more draw distance on it. So devs, give me that draw distance. I really want it. It's a choice I make by setting my draw distance on Epic, so just let me bear the consequences of performance dips, you know? It's nobody's holding a gun to my head to put it there. I'm the one putting it on Epic. And then there's another thing. When you're in the bushes, crouching versus walking, I think that it should not flatten the grass if you're crouching. However, and this is the key part, right? This is what we should do. We should make the flattening of grass be very, very dependent on the weight of the creature that passes through them.
And of course, I think it is really cool if we expand the tracking system. Like right now, you just send a footprint or you send some blood, then you follow the blood trail or you follow the footprints that light up in blue. I think that if a creature is wounded, or maybe even without being wounded, it wouldn't be a bad idea that when foliage gets disturbed, that the tracks placed on these foliage, that the tracks kind of last longer, you know? Like creature is bleeding, maybe you'll find like some blood on the side of a leaf or something, and that it just stays there a bit longer. Because currently it kind of falls short. So I had a session earlier. We were fighting a Sarah. This guy dips. I got his tracks. I follow his tracks. His tracks just stop at one point. Tracks glitch out. Don't know what exactly happened. Maybe he was even intelligent enough to know that crouching reduces the likelihood of leaving tracks. But I essentially just lost him without the footprint showing me a direction of where my prey went, and it kind of broke and I wasn't able to track down something that was on the brink of that. You know, you don't always have to secure your kill, survival has to be possible. So I will definitely respect that mantra. But it's kind of annoying when tracks break, since, you know, you're supposed to be able to see which direction it went. And we can say like, well, just fix the sense system. But why not just expand on it, and then if foliage gets disturbed, that you see the tracks of a creature. I think that would be really cool. Now, I have also cooked up something uh, with the help of ChatGPT actually, because I have no idea what weight does what to what type of foliage. I could only make my best guesses. You see, at the moment we have the situation where animals, any animal, so even a Troodon can make grass flattened to the same extent as what a trike would do. like the biggest creature we currently have in the Horde Test. We could say Rex since it's around the corner, but it's identical, right? Once again, no, it's a work in progress, but let's make it work properly. Like, as it's being built up, I think it's really cool if we immediately apply the right rules to it. And the idea I had is that you can not just flatten grass, but also bushes, like small bushes, big bushes, trees, like small trees, big trees. We already kind of know that Rex is going to be able to do that. It's even going to be able to break parts of walls, I believe. I'm not sure if they're going to go through with that. I know that we're going to get redwood trees. I think it's really cool if we apply like a set of rules to that. Then additionally, there's 4 types of movement, uh, not counting swimming or flying. But like we can be crouching, Z-walking, trotting, and sprinting. So I think it's really cool if we lay out the groundwork of movement type. Let's just, let's call that a movement type versus foliage type. And then factor in weight on what happens. And then we can make everything super dynamic. So, for example, on short grass, and I'm talking about the grass that is just, really, really short, where there's no tall grass or anything, that you just, for example, while crouching, you have to be 390 kilogram if you want to flatten that. When you're walking, 292 kilograms, trotting 234 kilograms, and then sprinting 195. You might think like, oh, why isn't these numbers so specific? But that is because I simply asked ChatGPT to give me some realistic values, and then I let it upscale since normally you have to also account for the kinetic force that happens. Like we don't have that. It's simply upon touch it happens. So I upscaled the weight requirements by like 40%. And to account for, the instantaneous on contact changes to the environment. And then I think if we just make it like that, it's gonna be super cool. Let me just lay it all out for you guys. So vegetation type, movement type, weight. So on short grass for crouching, 390 kilograms, walking, 292 kilograms, trotting, 234 kilograms, sprinting, 195 kilograms. So if you're below these weight thresholds, yeah, then the interaction should not occur, meaning that a Trudon would be able to, for example, sprint to tall grass without affecting it, which is really good for Trudons, right? I think we can all agree that grass flattening for a Trudon is very detrimental to its main survival ability to be unseen and nearly invisible, because that's kind of their gimmick. They are like ninjas. Then for tall grass, when you're crouching, you have to be 292 kilograms. If you're walking, you have to be 195 kilograms. Trotting, 156. Sprinting, 117. But now we get into the thing that I want to add, like really add. This is not in the Horde Test currently. The idea came to me while fighting a trike that was bush camping, and I was like, this thing is 9.5 tons. Why is this bush still here? Then it occurred to me, like a light bulb moment, like, hey, that's a good idea. So let's also include bushes. For example, for a small bush, if you're crouching and you're 780 kilograms, then the bush should be gone. And I'm talking about the little small bushes, so not the big ones. And then for walking, 585 kilograms, trotting 488 kilograms, and sprinting 390 kilograms. So meaning that, for example, a Dilo crouching through bushes, small ones, would not affect the bushes. But if he's walking through those bushes will flatten because 7 kilograms is quite a bit of weight. Might be hard to comprehend since the average human is what 90 kilogram, maybe 110. So we cannot really fathom that. But I promise you that weight will make short work of a bush. That the big bushes, we up it a little bit. You would have to be pretty much 2 tons to be crouching through it. for a bush to disappear. Walking 1 point, you know, 560. For trotting 1170 and sprinting 878. And then we get into the trees. And I noticed that we have like 4 types of trees. The 4 type is not in game yet, but we have these small little trees, like really small. Think of these bamboo stick kind of trees. And then we have these little wooden trees, like very thin, very tiny. And I think for a crouching animal, that's 700 and no 7.8 ton would be a really good threshold for crouching. And then 5.850 for walking, 3.9 ton if you're trotting, and 2.9 ton if you are sprinting, meaning that a dibble trotting through small trees will just destroy them. I mean, if it's sprinting, like, but it could be trotting right past them, and that feels quite right. I don't know why, but I feel that is quite right. Meanwhile, a stego would just walk these trees, and these trees would just be gone because they're so tiny, right? And then we get into the bigger trees, and here we see a real increase. And when I'm talking about big trees, I do not mean the huge ones, the thick ones, but I just mean like sturdy trees that are in between the small trees and the really big trees, kind of the middle ground. I think 20 tons to be crouching, walking, you get down to 15 tons. Trotting, you get down to 11.7 tons. And then sprinting, you get to 9 tons. So if a Rex runs into one of these trees, the tree is gone. I think that's quite fine. I would quite like that actually. That means that the bigger dinosaurs can interact with the map, and in a gameplay session, meaning from restart to next restart, the landscape would kind of form and really shape itself. So the devs don't have to keep map editing all the time. They can just put their bushes in the trees wherever they want, and then the player behavior will shape the map. And that is the part about it that I find really interesting. And yeah, for huge trees, and I mean the big fatty ones where the Herreras like to sit in, um, 35 tons, 29 tons, etc. Like we're getting into Sarapod levels of weight here. And with the redwood trees, like the really massive ones, I don't think they'll be breakable for a long time, but we can already set the thresholds for them. And I think the really big sauropods will get somewhere close to 60 tons, if not heavier. I'm not quite sure. I would have to, go through Alcord, but unfortunately, somebody, is banned from Alcord, and I cannot really go through that. I have no idea where to find this chart of the roster, etc., to see the weight that's been planned, etc. But I'm quite sure that when I saw it, and if my memory serves me, that we exceed these thresholds with certain creatures. So they would be able to break those trees. And then we have the last thing I want to touch upon, and that is the issue that people are raising is like, but isn't this going to affect performance? And this is why I think that it should stay, you know, like that till the next restart, because then you can configure all the foliage to not update and be dynamic like that, but you can just give them a state. State one being like the foliage is untouched, as the devs have placed it in the map. And then we can simply go to state two, meaning something has interacted with it that has met these weight thresholds and it's flattened. So we get 2 stages for every foliage type, the flattened type and yeah, the non-flattened type. So those state changes being that simple and not changing would probably benefit towards performance as well in the long run. I think that is the way to go about it. And in short, yeah, that is my idea, man. Like, I think this is a really cool idea to go about. Um, I'm curious, what do you guys think? Like, am I crazy, or is this gonna be amazingly cool if they would do this? Let me know. I'm very curious to see your responses. And also finally, and this is like a little idea I had after making most of this video, what if we make the grass that has been flattened non-interactable for creatures that have access to the grazing mechanic, you know? Pretty much every herbivore can graze the grass. What if they graze the grass and the grass just disappears and they can no longer interact with it? The question I asked myself is, would this promote player traffic? Would this promote the herbivores moving around? As at one point they will run out of grass to eat, right? Until the next server restart, essentially. Also, the very interesting one, like food for thought. It could balance grazing and the complaint that people have that, oh, herbivores can just graze, they have it easy. Not if there is a limited amount of grass. It kind of solves that situation. And it makes it interesting because herbivores really have to move around to eat the whole place dry. And then eventually, when, let's say, somehow magically they have eaten every grass field, which is not going to happen in between restarts, I can promise you. Most servers have restarts set up within 6 hours. I promise you they are not going to eat all the grass within that time. But it does lead to herbivores migrating. We have migration zones. We have patrol zones. Eventually, these become more popular to be sought out by said herbivores. They will not camp in a spot, like just graze water in one spot, you know? This would balance that out and prevent some AFK spots or hot spotting. I think, in general, with the interactive dynamic environment idea, you solve hot spotting for at least like 60 to 70%. Like carnivores will still have their spots where a certain AI spawns in, but that can also be regulated. And I think we will get one step closer to having a very dynamic map that is very pleasant to play in, especially when every type of foliage can be interacted with, and more interactivity with foliage gives the players more feeling of they're affecting the landscape, you know, and they can also create paths, memorize those paths if they are creating them. I think it could be really cool, and then for the carnivores to stumble upon a path where multiple herbivores have been passing through to start tracking that. I really want to play that. You hear me? Like just saying it out loud just makes me want to try that out. It sounds super, super interesting. But once again, let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys next time.